Welcome to Connect Canyons, a podcast sponsored by Canyon School District. This is a show about what we teach, how we teach, and why. We get up close and personal with some of the people who make our schools great. Students, teachers, principals, parents, and more. We meet national experts too. Learning is about making connections. So connect with us.
Hello, thanks for tuning in to Connect Canyons. My name is Jody Genesee. I'm a communications specialist with Canyon School District and I'm pleased to be the host of this episode. I'm joined in the studio today by Officers Ballard and Kelly Taylor, who are a couple of the district's school resource officers. We also have with us Charisse Hilton, a Canyons administrator who works closely with SROs around the district. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, we're excited to have you with February 15th being officially designated as National School Resource Officers Day. I guess you guys have some big parties planned for tomorrow.
No, I don't.
Maybe. Charisse, do we?
We're going to take care of you.
Surprise, tomorrow is your day. But anyway, we wanted to thank you for everything you do along with the other SROs in the district. We would like to get some insight on what you do for the district and how you help make our students and campuses safer. First off, Officer Ballard, what inspired you to become a police officer and led you to Canyons?
This all started way back when I was in high school. I remember over at Cobber Hills High, I had my SRO, and that guy just was inspiring. I could see how he interacted with the kids, the youth, and I came back, I was 21. I was like, that's what I want to do. And so that's how I started, I started actually working in Salt Lake County Jail and then worked my way to Sandy City.
And how long have you been working as an SRO in Canyons District?
It's been 6 years now.
And where are you stationed?
Right now I'm at Diamond Ridge High, but I'd say I've done everything. Started in the elementaries, working with the small kids, and then worked my way up to the middle schools, and then over to Alta High, and now at Diamond Ridge, the alternative high school. And I worked with everyone. And so it's good to see all the kids and the way that they grow from elementary and then see them graduate and then get married. And it's funny. It's crazy to see.
How about you, Officer Taylor?
My father was in law enforcement, and so he worked for the state of Utah, did a lot of undercover narcotics. So basically, all growing up, junior high, high school, he was there. I got to go to some trainings with him, and it was a fun job that he had. I kind of just fell into law enforcement. In fact, I was in the police academy when 9/11 happened and went through that, was able to work part of the Olympics in Salt Lake. I also started in the jail, but was up north, and did a lot of different things. I got out of the jail, went to patrol, and then my boss asked me to try the SRO thing. And I did that for a while, changed a couple departments. And I've been at Cottonwood Heights just over 3 years, and I've been an SRO just over 2, or going on my second year. But they asked me if I would be interested. I said, yeah, sure, I've done it before. I really enjoyed it. So I get to take care of 5 elementaries in Cottonwood Heights and then also the middle school. And the first of the year, I teach a DARE class to the 5th grade students. And so that's kind of fun because I get to see them grow and develop for a couple months. And then also when they transfer after the school year to the middle school, I get to see them there as well. And you see a lot of them grow up and they start to change their interests and likes and dislikes and things like that. So, like Shay said, it's interesting to see the progression that they make, as they come from elementary to middle school. And then I do see some of the students that were at the middle school now they're at Brighton High and get to see them grow, get their driver's license, and they get excited. And it's, Shay said he really liked his high school SRO, but it's interesting that the rapport that you build with these kids, especially if you see them at the grocery store or at a restaurant, they'll come up and talk to you and ask you, and they still call you, hey, Officer so-and-so, how are you doing? So it's fun to see them grow and develop.
Yeah, 100% agree because it's so fun to watch them. And when you do see them, like when you're not in uniform or they're asking you, hey, come to my wedding. And you're like, what? You're getting married? It's just crazy to see. I started teaching over there with the elementary kids. Now they're seniors, and that's what's the big change, right? And you see some of them have excelled and some of them have not, right? And you see both sides, and you wonder where was the disconnect. If I had the answer, I'd love to write a book, but that's not happening.
Charisse, we're so happy to have you here. You have a different perspective as a former administrator at the middle school level and high school at Brighton High. And now we're excited to have you here at the district as an administrator. Could you just give us a little brief background on what your position as an administrator, like how you work with the SROs, and then maybe, your history with SROs?
Sure. This is my 30th year in education. And so I've actually worked with SROs at the school level as a school administrator. And as a school administrator, our goal was always to make them part of our team. That was really important, that they were part of our administrative team and that they felt a part of our team. And I know from Dr. Robbins, our superintendent, as he and I visited when I took over this position, his number one thing is that we have positive relationships. With Shay and Kelly have talked about that we have kids that can look to our SROs as role models and trusted individuals and trusted adults. When I started at Eastmont Middle School, that was my first opportunity working with Sandy City, which is our largest police agency that we work with. And I always invited all of them. Anytime we had a get-together, we had food or, whatever, we would invite the whole team. And it was so fun to see these middle schoolers see their SROs from elementary and hear them call out to them in the halls. And I hadn't had that opportunity before. And so you do see what an impact these guys have on these kids and the importance they are. And then, of course, school safety. That is number one for all of us, making sure our kids are safe. And our SROs play an integral role in that because we need kids to trust them. We want our families to know they can trust them. And they take the time to work in our buildings. They do drills in our buildings and make sure they're very present, make sure they're very visible. And I know I can speak for myself and others in our department that work with our SROs. We have so much confidence in all 4 agencies that we work with and just really appreciate all that they do in our schools.
What are those 4 agencies?
So we have the opportunity to work with Cottonwood Heights, UPD Midvale, Sandy City, and Draper City.
And overall, we were talking about this off the air, is it 15 SROs who help with our district?
We have about 17.
17.
Mm-hmm. While they're not certified law enforcement officers, we have our gang advocates that we work with, and they work closely with our police officers as well.
It's really interesting. There's never been probably more publicity about school safety unfortunately, it's awful whenever it happens, school shootings. It's awful at any level when it happens. At the same time, schools have never been safer. And so I think that message might not get out to the public as much. And I'm sure you two in your schools and SROs play a large role in that. And would you like to expound on that?
I think we do. The teachers are there to educate, and so you want them to be able to do their jobs and not have to have, I'm going to call it a frustration of, okay, now what do I have to do? I mean, we have fire drills all the time. Unfortunately, now in the day and age we live, we have to have active shooter drills. I mean, we don't call them that, but it implements the same thing that, okay, we just have to do this now. And it's interesting to see teachers that, can I do this better? Or what should I do? Or even administrators asking us questions. Okay, if we had this scenario, what would you guys think? And it's like they like to nitpick our brains to see how they can do their job better. But at the same time, and I think, Shay feels the same way, we want the teachers just to teach. Let us take care of the hard stuff. You guys do your job, let us do ours, and then we can work together.
Yeah, I would agree. And I think the more that we are interacting with the kids and also the teachers, like you see a development that the trust starts to coincide. And the teachers are starting to trust us as well as the students. They know that, okay, cops are here, we're in good hands, we're going to be safe. And I think the district, with all the agencies, have worked really well in the past 3-4 years with that. Just talking with each other, the communication has been great and phenomenal. And we're very open to the teachers, and teachers are open to us for what we can do better, what they can do better.
That's great. And Charisse, what's your relationship now? Like, what's your job as far as SROs go?
The communication, number one. We have a couple liaisons with law enforcement. I'm directly responsible for communication with our SROs and their immediate supervisors. We have another individual, Susan Edwards, who communicates with our mayors and our chief of police. But I have direct communication with the SROs and with their supervisors. So I always go through their supervisors for protocol, just making sure that things, get distributed. But also we want to make sure that they are comfortable in their schools, that they have the supplies, that they have the equipment they need in their schools. We want to make sure they have an office, a place to meet with kids. Also that they have good communication from the building administrator. So that's something I've tried to work on since taking over this position a few years ago, is making sure that we're promoting good communication with our building administrators and our SROs, because that communication is just very, very crucial. And we have to have those open lines anytime something happens to build that confidence and to build that trust that we know that, heaven forbid, we should have a critical incident, that those lines are open and we know who to talk to. I also feel it's important that all 4 agencies know each other. So we've held a couple district-wide trainings. We just do it in August when school is getting ready to get back in session. But we do that with all 4 agencies because I do think it's important these officers know each other, because we know that they would more than likely respond together should we have a critical incident.
Gotcha.
I know Charisse doesn't want me to tutor on her own, but like Charisse has been really good since she kind of took over this spot. She's kind of, I don't know, kind of like our mom, right? She's definitely she's definitely calling us to, hey, what do you need, son? Right? But it's been really good relationship that she has with our supervisors, and trickling down the information. Like we get what we need, and it's really been good.
Thanks, Shay.
Anytime, Mom.
Yeah,
gonna say.
hey, Mom, we need to hear some good stories about these guys.
Oh, I have plenty. But they probably have plenty on me too, because I've been doing this a long time. So I would note too, I think Shay is our longest standing SRO currently. Is that, I know in Sandy you are, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, so Shay's been at it the longest as far as SROs go. And I would add that continuity is really important. Everybody does know Shay and Sandy. He's been at several of our schools, but having that continuity of our officers is really important. Not switching those officers out every year, every 2 years. I really appreciate our agencies that are supporting that, because we all know relationships take 2 to 3 years to build. And so having that continuity has also helped to build a stronger unit with all of us working together. And so I appreciate that we have that in other agencies as well. We just had an officer in UPD Midvale that had been, I think, Ryan Yockman had been 5 years, I'm guessing. He was pre-me coming into the position. But I just appreciate that longevity. And again, Shay has a great knowledge of the people, the kids, and then the functions of the district. So I'm going to add, too, these guys also assist with our peer court. That's an integral piece, something we started a few years ago that's becoming very successful as an intervention to help kids. And we really have had a great deal of support from our law enforcement officers, from our SROs, who will call and say, hey, I've got this. I'd rather not charge it. Can we send it to peer court? So they're working as advocates for kids, and I think sometimes those that don't feel like our officers should be in our schools think that it's an adversarial role. It's really not. They're there as advocates, and so that's something that's been really integral in building and supporting our peer court. We always have one of our SROs present at peer court sessions to answer questions, to sometimes other issues come up, and they're always there to take those on for us. So, again, they play an integral part in that as well.
The role of an SRO has been described as being kind of 3-part, as informal mentors or counselors, as law educators, and as law enforcement officers to support students and communities. Is that kind of how you see it?
I think that's a good kind of interpretation of their basic functions, because we are mentors for students and parents and even administrators and teachers. We'll get teachers come and ask us, hey, I got this concern, or hey, I'm going through a hard time and, a divorce and custody, what's the law says, or what can I do, or what can they do, stuff like that. But at the same time, we'll get phone calls from administrators, hey, I have this going on, what do I do? I know Safe UT is a huge thing that we work and rely on a lot because it gives us information. And I think Shay can agree with me this. We've been around a long time, and obviously our roles need to change. You look at these kids, and they have their own struggles. They're trying to find themselves, and they may not come from the best home, or they may be living with a relative because their parents are, incarcerated or something like that. And so they're looking for someone that actually is going to believe in them. Well, they get a good teacher, that's great. But if they don't have a relationship with the teacher, who's the next person? So sometimes I bet Shay and I can be an advocate for them. Okay, what can we do to help you? And along the lines with peer court is kids don't need to get in the juvenile system. That's kind of like the last resort. We want them to see themselves excelling and exceeding and becoming somebody who they want to be. That, hey, you know what? I screwed up, but I still know that, Officer Shea cares about me. He's still going to be an advocate. I know I did this wrong, but he's still going to talk to me. He still wants to see me improve. They could go home and it could be a horrible home life, and they're like, I have nobody. But I go to school for 8 hours. I have people that care about me, people that believe in me. And so you see these kids that want to go to school because they don't have anything else to do.
Yeah, I think Kelly hit it right on the head. That's exactly what our role is, right? It's everything. So
You talked about the relationships. I would imagine that and maybe seeing somebody get married, or maybe seeing one of these kids that had kind of struggled and you saw them improve and make better choices. Is that the reward for you?
it's a huge reward. I mean, so like you get a kid who doesn't, maybe wasn't the best kid, right? Barely graduates, and then when you see him at graduation day and they're like, dude, look at, I'm graduating. He's crying or she's crying because they barely graduated. And then in a year, you walk into a store and you see that they're like, I was like, whoa, like what happened to you? Like, dude, I grew up, right? Like life started. I'm working a full-time job. This is what I'm doing with my life. I'm thinking about getting married. It's rewarding. You can't take that away. When 2 years ago you were probably had them across your table talking about what they were doing wrong and advocating. I think that's huge, right? We're huge in advocating for the students. As much as they think that we're just out to get them or punish them, no, that's not the reward. The reward's not how many tickets or how many arrested I get. It's who did I save, right?
I think that being an SRO is probably the best kept secret in law enforcement. I mean, because you have to be actively engaged in it. I mean, yeah, the schedule's nice, 9 months out of the year, you got a set schedule. You don't have to work nights or weekends. It's a great schedule. But put that aside, you have to be open to build relationships, not just with the students, but with like Charisse and the other principals, because you're not going to get anywhere if you're just fighting. If you're just fighting or, no, we do it this way or this is the way we've always done it. You have to be open to, okay, how can we help this student? Or what do we need to change this? Whether it's sitting by a crosswalk helping a crossing guard, or whether it's being there for a parent meeting because, parents, we love our kids. Sometimes we get upset, but sometimes it's easier when there's a law enforcement officer just sitting in the meeting, just sitting there, and as the parents are advocating for the child and the school's advocating for the child as well, that you see them come to an agreement. But you have to be actively engaged or you're wasting your time.
What's the day in the life of an SRO like? I'm guessing every day is a little bit different.
So I have 5 elementaries and a middle school that I'm in charge of. So I try to hit at least 3 or 4 a day. Sometimes it's more, sometimes it's less. But I go in, I meet with the office staff, I talk to the principal, and I just I'll usually stop at a class, just observe, say hi. Sometimes a teacher will invite me in. I try not to interrupt their lessons, and so I kind of gauge what they're doing. But if I walk by and they say, hey, Officer Taylor, we have a question for you. I'll go in and I'll talk to the students, I'll address them. And if it's at an elementary, I'll actually get down on one knee so they're not looking up at me, kind of more eye to eye and just, what's your question? And we'll talk about a current event. Last year, I had the opportunity to help an English class. They were reading a book and they wanted it kind of an investigative standpoint on what happened. And so I went to each class period and kind of had a different bad guy or different suspect for each different class to talk about it with them. Like I said, I teach DARE. That's usually at the first of the year, so it kind of gets out of the way. But I just try to bounce around and keep building relationships with those principals and with other teachers, and then with students. I'll go to the lunchroom and help little kids open up their milk. Or I'll be at the middle school during lunch and talk to them and answer their questions. And we'll talk, if they have a sports jersey on or a band jersey, I'll ask them about it. Hey, do you like that band? And I don't know who Guns N' Roses is. That's my dad's shirt or something like that. So then you got to educate them like that. But like I said, just be actively involved. Just being engaged and just being there.
I would agree. Every day it's a different day, even though you have it set, planned out, whatever you're going to do. But it's going to change as soon as you get to the school, because you're going to start walking the halls, and then your phone's going to start blowing up from the principal saying, "Hey, we got this going on." Like, oh, okay, and then you go and solve that problem. But I agree. I think the more interaction that you have in the hallways or in the classrooms with the students is where the impact is. Them seeing you there at the school, that's what changes. And so I think at Diamond Ridge, so where I'm at right now, I don't think that was happening years past, right? Now we have a full-time officer there. They're now seeing, oh, at first it was pretty bad. They're like looking like, why is there a cop here? So they're like kind of like shady, didn't know what they're doing. And now it's come so natural that they're, oh, what do you do? What's up, Officer Ballard? And they're just talking like normal people, right? Like normal students. It's great because now they feel like when there's 2-3 cops at their school, it's not really anything different. They're used to it now.
What's the biggest challenge about your guys' job?
Ooh, that's you, Kelly.
They can talk about on a podcast.
I think parents, I really think, because like Shay said, we're in the school a lot. We see our principals, we see our teachers, we're developing those relationships. It's interesting when a parent comes to the school just fuming because their kid was suspended or because their kid's phone was taken away, because we want to believe in our kids, but then obviously the kid's not going to tell the whole story. They're only going to tell half of it. So then you come in and you're kind of an advocate for their kid, but you're also with the school saying, no, this is like the 6th or 7th time his phone's been taken away. And the shock of surprise when, well, no, your kid, he's vaped before. They're like, wait, my kid does that? And so I think parents, my heart goes out to teachers. My heart goes out to teachers because they have to do their lessons and they've got different personalities from every single one of their student every single day. And they might make a connection with one, doing it one way, but they can't the other, so they have to switch it. So they're wearing many hats just as we are. But I think probably the biggest frustration is having the parents not just believe in their kids, but believe that the educators and the principals and ourselves, the SROs, we're advocating for their kids to do better and become better. And everybody has kind of their own bias to law enforcement, and hopefully we're trying to change that. Yeah, they might be at the alternative school because they have some issues, but he's there to make sure they're safe, that they're still trying their very best, and he's still advocating for them. Just as much if we're at an elementary school that has had 3 kids come through and the parents, or maybe we can have an impact on that one child that's going to steer them in a different direction.
Charisse, is there something that parents can do to help the SROs and that we can do as the public to help our SROs?
I just think in general, I'm not speaking just parents, but I think all of us is just try to remember to be civil, is that we need to remember civility. And then we always need a friend, an educator friend of mine, and it's not a fancy quote, but she always used to say, no matter how thin the pancake is, there's always 2 sides. And so we always need to remember there's always going to be 2 sides to the story. And so I think no matter who we are, whether it's the administrator, the police officer, or a parent or guardian, coming in, we need to listen, and we need to listen to the whole story or try to get the whole story, because there's often 2 sides. And I think that too, something that I know these guys have heard me say in peer court before, oftentimes a child's behavior or something they do is really just a symptom of something deeper. And so we have to remember that too, that we're really there as advocates. We've all said that. But we're also there to try to provide resources and support to the student, to the family, whatever they might need to have help. And so that's something I try to remember as we're running peer court, that oftentimes these behaviors we see are just a symptom of something else. And so we need to try to take that time to care and to ask the right questions and figure out what is the something else that's really affecting this child. It could be home. It could be peer pressure from parents. It could be, we've seen some hard things that these kids go through, and it breaks my heart sometimes because you think, did we miss this? What could we have done better? So I just hope that everybody knows when you're coming into a conversation like that, let's be objective and let's listen and try to listen to both sides and know that in the end, we're all there for the same outcome. And the same outcome is just to support the child and their family. And something I was going to add as well is it takes a special personality to be an SRO. Just like not everybody's cut out to be a teacher, or not everybody's cut out to be a principal, not everybody's cut out to be a school resource officer. And we've had the opportunity to speak with a couple of our city councils this year, also some other elected officials. And I said this at a recent city council meeting, and happy to share it here, but truly the group of SROs we have right now in Canyons, probably among the best I've worked with. And again, I've been doing this a long time, and I've worked with a lot of different agencies. I think I've worked total now with about 6 different agencies, just as I've moved from school to school, and with having been in Jordan District before Canyons was formed, and I still have relationships with SROs that I worked with at Copper Hills. When Shay was at Copper Hills, I think we missed each other by a couple of years. Yeah.
I was attending, by the way.
But I still have excellent relationships with my SROs that I worked with at Copper Hills High School. And I have relationships with the first SRO I had at Hillcrest High School when I started as a teacher, who then moved to Brighton High School, and then I moved to Brighton High School. That relationship piece, and it takes a special personality to want to deal with the ever-changing day that happens in a school, and especially all the challenges that are happening now. I mean, we've seen such a change in behavior since COVID. We've seen the evolution of vaping. Our SROs are learning and educating themselves and participating in training, and so are we. And so I think that's an important piece to understand, too. We're always trying to do better and to serve better.
Well, you have given love to the SROs, and I know that they spoke highly of you. It's Valentine's Day, so we have to give you some love as well, Charisse.
Jody.
It takes a very special person, and Canyons District the parents should feel very fortunate that we have you in our district advocating for our students, and you're just wonderful. And so I see the relationship you have with the SROs, and I've heard you talk about them and been in the room when you've talked to them on the phone, and it's just you're like the maestro. So
It's Mom.
what a mom. We're the same age. So.
Great. Is that the new nickname?
You mentioned some of the concerns like vaping and whatnot. I'm wondering what your biggest concern about our students is right now. Is it social media, video games, vaping, maybe something else?
I think it's a combination of both social media and vaping, right? The two, I don't know why they coincide, but it's bad. And that's why like being a teacher would be, it's hard, right? Because you go in to teach a class and then all the kids are doing are on their phones, right? And you try to manage that. Hey, get off your phone. Like, oh, I got an important conversation. Like, no, it's not that important, right? We were in high school and we didn't have phones. So the social media it's impactful. And then it rolls into our job because they're like, well, this kid's bullying me or he's threatening me on this social account. And it's like, did you reject them? Did you block them? Like, what are you doing to prevent that from happening? Oh, I'm not doing that. I was like, because I want to stay on their account, right? So phones are a huge, huge thing. So, but
would you recommend that parents should get a little bit more involved in what their kids are doing and take their phones and look at them? And that's as a parent of teenage kids, that's really hard to do, by the way.
It is really hard to do. But I think if you set a precedence at the beginning, right, when they get their phone, and sometimes maybe we're behind the eight ball right now because a lot of the kids have had their phones for several years. But for your parent, I think the kids think that it's their phone. They own it. And the parents don't understand, like, no, you're the one that pays for it. It's your phone. Take it, look through it, get the passcodes. And if they don't give you passcodes, don't give it back to them. They'll get the passcode eventually.
We see a lot of social media. I mean, it's out there. We're all on it and stuff like that. And I think these kids see social media as the reality. But you always see the fun stuff on social media, the fun vacations, the fun, I made this or this, but you don't ever see the struggles they're going through. And I think these kids are getting to a point where they're having a hard time adapting, or how do I cope with this? There's the stigmatism that if they might have to take something for it. And there's nothing wrong. Some people have seen a little bit. I mean, people take stuff for asthma, and they take stuff for, they wear glasses or contacts, or they wear hearing aids. Like, everybody's different and unique. But some of these kids have such a turmoil that I don't want to take anything. So, well, my buddy does this, so maybe I'll start vaping. But that's a lot worse because they're just trying to find themselves. Their bodies are still growing, their minds are still developing, and now they're impeding that. And so they're going to make even poorer decisions. And so I think social media can kind of attest to a lot of things that you don't ever see. You either see something really horrific or you always see the fun stuff. People don't want to talk about how I'm feeling this way. What am I supposed to do? Oh, you're just going through puberty. Oh, it's just part of growing up. Well, it is, but if they don't have anybody to talk to, they're going to go to social media or they're going to find other means for it. And so, like Shay and Charisse said, we have to be an advocate to say it's okay to have those feelings. How you act depends on your outcome. Let's talk about it. What can we do to help you out? Why are you feeling this way? I don't know. I get really angry at this, or I'm just sad all the time. I don't know why. And so I think parents need to have that open discussion with their kids about These are some things you can do, and these are the things you shouldn't do. You know, and like with social media and the phones, we grew up without phones. If our parents need us, they call the school. Well, parents, please call the school if you're looking for your child. Well, I have him on tracker and he's not at school. Okay, well, let's have some discipline things happen that we can maybe assist you. Why are they at school? Do they not like the teacher? Are they being bullied? You know, what are they struggling with that makes them not want to be with their friends? So it's accumulation of options, but I think, you know, you can't narrow it down for one kid. But I think parents need to be open. Okay, I know I'm juggling these things, but now I have an advocate and an SRO or an administrator or the district that's going to help me juggle it as well. So
I think, too, part of it is educating our parents, and that's something I was just thinking both Officer Ballard and Officer Taylor have helped us with our parent nights at different times, and other SROs have also with our canyoneering nights. Some people have questioned, said, wow, those are kind of hard topics. Those are deep topics you're having, but they're the topics we're seeing. We're trying to keep that very current, very relevant for our parents. And so, again, I appreciate that our law enforcement partners will come in and teach with what they're seeing, because that's important, too, when we talk about we want parents to come into a conversation or anyone to come into a conversation with objectivity and listening. We're trying to educate as best we can as a district to say, hey, here's what we're seeing, because we want to help with those conversations. We want to make sure they know what a THC cartridge looks like and the dangers that we're seeing with the THC cartridges. And so, again, our SROs, that's a big piece of what they do as well. They educate us and help us educate our community, because that's huge in helping parents combat what's out there facing their kids every day.
And I know we have some of those videos of the canyoneering
Yes.
nights on CSD TV on YouTube.
We do.
So please, I know the vaping and some other topics. There.
Yes, Officer Ballard and Officer Hoops, who is our SRO at Jordan High, both taught a great workshop breakout session at our last parent night, and we do record all of those, and they're available on our CSD TV.
Great. Well, I've really enjoyed this conversation. Is there anything else about being an SRO that you guys would like to share? Or?
just that parents know that we're advocating for your kids. We want to see them succeed. We want them to make good choices, and we're here to help them.
I'd second that. It's just a most rewarding job. I don't think I ever thought it would be this rewarding going into it. I knew it would be fun. I didn't know it would be this much fun.
That's awesome. We talk about kind of the negative stuff, but I'm guessing you see more positive in the schools.
You do, but we always reflect on the negative, right? But there's a ton more positive than there are negative.
I know you guys play a role in that, and so thank you sincerely from a parent and from a district employee. I appreciate all that you do, and Charisse, everything you do as well. So
Absolutely.
It's our pleasure.
Jody.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us here in the studio today. Officers Shea Ballard and Kelly Taylor and Charisse Hilton. We need to get you to become an SRO, perhaps.
I'm going to retire soon.
No,
Me
you're
too.
not.
All right. Thank you for taking time with us today. Please be safe out there. We appreciate all of our Connect Canyons listeners for tuning into this episode. Let's connect again soon.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Connect Canyons. Connect with us on Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram at Canyons District, or on our website, canyonsdistrict.org.